Hey, what's up, Walking Dead fans? Welcome to Chronocord Media and our weekly recap and review of the show. Season 6, Episode 10 just wrapped up, and C-Dub and I are here to break it down and provide some reactions for you. Before we go any further, guys, quick spoiler warning: if you have not seen the episode, go ahead and watch it and come right back here to Chronocord and check out our review. A definite dip down in energy from that premiere, but as expected, everything seems to be kind of back to normal. C-Dub in Alexandria a few weeks after the big Rick rage where hundreds of zombies were mowed down by the group. Rick's rocking some Boston More Than a Feeling, possibly the worst music to start an episode out with. We see Rick and Daryl gathering information for a supply run.
And the biggest news, and perhaps the best news of all, JC, Carl is good to go. He's fine on the recovery. Looks like we had a little time skip of just a couple weeks there in this episode. We then find out some information that perhaps Heath and Tara will be going on a 2-week run soon. Holy crap, that's a crazy idea. Denise has a little request. Tara has been talking about cola in her sleep. So she requests from Daryl, find me a can of good old sody pop.
So we get to see Maggie for the only time in the episode, and she is talking to Enid and kind of nudging her to help out in the rebuilding of Alexandria. Daryl and Rick, out on their mission to find supplies, they hit the jackpot, C-Dub. They find a truck parked in a garage full of goodies in the back, and they proceed to take the truck and make their way back to Alexandria. But before they do, they stop at a gas station.
Indeed, a stranger comes seemingly out of nowhere, and of course, Rick and Daryl hold him at gunpoint while they kind of figure out the situation. It appears that this guy, who we learn is called by his friends Jesus. Everything seems to be on the up and up with him. Rick and Daryl and Jesus part ways, and then just a few moments later, bang, 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 Rick and Daryl go around the building to find firecrackers have been set off. As they come back around the building, surprise, Jesus has taken the wheel.
Yeah, that guy looked really suspicious right off the bat. I would have never turned my back on him or even let him go. You have to wonder what Rick is thinking there. He was even trying to start the recruiting process to bring him back to the safe zone. Don't do that, Rick. Next up, we had Michonne, and she spotted Spencer heading out into the woods, and she followed him out there. Now, he had a shovel with him, and he was kind of acting shady, and she was wondering why he was out there. Then we see Carl and Enid hanging out in the woods, and Carl's reading a comic book called Invincible. Perhaps that's an Easter egg for later in the series. And C-Dub, Dr. D is in luck because as Rick and Daryl are tracking down the truck that Jesus stole, they find the vending machine that was attached to it in the middle of the road, and they find some delicious orange crush.
Rick and Daryl have a little drink and talk about their plan. Then we go over to Enid and Carl hanging out in the woods. They hear a noise coming by and are quiet enough to sneak up and see that it's just Spencer and Michonne. No big deal. Carl just goes back to reading his comic. Enid remarks that she doesn't wish to go out into the woods anymore. Perhaps she's a little bit shell-shocked after getting out and finding Glenn and making their way back to Alexandria. Before they can have much more conversation, there's a walker incoming. Enid says to kill it. Carl insists that they don't and tells Enid to go back home.
And then Rick and Daryl track down the truck. Looks like it had a flat tire or something. And Jesus is fixing the flat tire, and they sneak up on him in the woods and take him down. But dude, this guy has some serious Bruce Lee skills. He took out both Rick and Daryl. He's been trained somewhere. You have to start wondering where this guy came from and what group is he a part of. And Rick, throughout this episode, keeps saying, you know, today's the day that the law of averages catches up with us. Looks like it did, but it might not be for the better.
So they wisely decide to tie Jesus up, and Daryl throws him a little empty can of soda as a parting gift. Rick and Daryl are on their way in the truck, and as they head toward a field, and Daryl notices some thumping noises up on the roof. Jesus made it up on the roof. He's held on the entire time. Rick wisely hits the brakes and sends him flying off the roof of the truck.
Daryl gets out of the truck to try to track him down. They're trying to corner him in that field. And then some walkers that were chained up to a car break loose and start going after them. Rick takes care of them, but at the same time, our new friend gets back in the truck and he ends up saving Daryl from a walker who was creeping up behind him with a gunshot to the head. That was surprising to me. I thought that he would just let Daryl get bit. So it seems this guy does have a good streak in him. But overall, C-Dub, this guy is a damn thief. I mean, he stole the truck, he stole the keys. I mean, you don't know what else this guy's capable of. So it would probably not be wise to take this guy back to Alexandria. But it seems like Rick is all about saving this guy.
Perhaps after seeing Jesus's karate skills, he thinks, maybe this guy could be a benefit to our group. I mean, Rick has seen a ton of people and perhaps by this point can see through a ruse to tell if somebody is worth saving. But in the middle of this fight, Rick had decided to park the truck. And as all this commotion's going on, the parking brake disengages and this truck full of food and supplies rolls into a lake. Oh no. Daryl and Jesus bail out. Daryl makes it clear of the truck, but as the truck's going down the hill, Jesus lands right next to the door and gets nailed right in the head and is knocked out by the blow. Then Rick and Daryl have to decide what they're going to do with him. Daryl suggests putting him up a tree.
Yeah, that was a huge loss for Daryl and Rick with that massive amount of food and other supplies. I mean, that probably would have helped them out greatly back in Alexandria. But let's jump over to Michonne and Spencer in the woods. They see Carl running through the woods, being chased by the walker that he had found earlier. And lo and behold, C-Dub, this was teased on Instagram, on the Walking Dead official Instagram. A few days ago, we saw a picture of what looked like Deanna as a walker being held by Michonne. So now we know why Spencer was out in the woods with the shovel all along. He was looking for dear old mommy to finally put her out of her misery. I assume that she was a casualty back in the Rick Rage, but here she is, and this is probably the last we'll see of Deanna.
Indeed, JC. Now we know immediately why Carl did not put her down. Michonne and Spencer have a proper burial for Deanna beneath a nice tree that they marked. Michonne gives Spencer a little pep talk and makes him return home. Then we cut over to Rick, Daryl, and a captive Jesus. They've found a vehicle, and Rick has decided to bring Jesus back to Alexandria for some medical attention. On the way, Rick and Daryl have a little discourse, and they've kind of both flip-flopped in their theories on what to do with the other people they come across. Rick, whenever he initially came to Alexandria, didn't want to help anybody, and Daryl wanted to help everyone. And now, JC, it's completely changed.
So it seems like Michonne kind of took on the mom role for Rick and Carl and baby Judith, and she takes this a step further at the end of the episode, C-Dub, in a moment that a lot of people were looking forward to. I know I predicted to you that this would happen very recently. Rick and Michonne, get it on.
Oh, yeah. Michonne and Rick having a little sitcom-like conversation. It was pretty funny to hear them talk like it was just regular life. So, how was your day? A little bit of spooning leads to forking, and we have a cut as Michonne and Rick are laying in bed post-coitus, and we hear the voice of Jesus. Rick, wake up. I think we need to talk.
We knew this guy was trouble when we met him. He's a skeeving, conniving little scoundrel, and he proved it once again, breaking into Rick's house, seeing them in all their glory. I mean, this guy obviously could have hurt them if he wanted to in their sleep, but he chose not to, so it seems like this guy wants to have a discussion and work things out. So, C-Dub, we have a lot to look forward to next week in episode 11 of season 6. How will Michonne and Rick get along post-hookup? Will there be a different dynamic between the two as they lead this group in Alexandria? How will Rick and Jesus get along? Will they cut a deal? We saw a preview. It looks like they make an attempt to take him back to where his camp is. And we have to keep an eye on Carl to see how he behaves post-injury. He seemed very serious in this episode. And as we know from previous characters in The Walking Dead who lose part of their body, whether it's Merle with his hand or Herschel with his leg or the governor with his eye, something always clicks on in their brain and changes their personality for better or for worse. So we'll have to see what happens there with Carl.
Carl, it looks like you got yourself a new stepmama. It's a good thing you guys get along, though. Folks, that's it for this recap of episode 10 of season 6 of The Walking Dead, entitled The Next World. Hit that subscribe button and be sure to drop us a comment below, and come back next week for episode 11 of season 6 of The Walking Dead, entitled Knots Untied. For JC, this is C-Dub. Don't get bit.